This is PM Agenda. Thanks for your company. With me now, Grahame Morris, the former Chief of Staff to John Howard from Barton Deakin, and Labor strategist from Campaign and Communications, Bruce Hawker. Bruce, I want to talk to you about the mid-year budget update through the political prism. Wayne Swan referred to this as balance cuts, made the contrast with the coalition states. It was pretty transparent what that message was all about.
Indeed. In Queensland, for example, they cut 14,000 jobs, 4,100 of those out of health. New South Wales have just announced $1.7 billion in education and more to come. That's the brutal end of this scale. I think in this case, though, the government has moved pretty carefully in the changes that they've made to make sure that it doesn't hurt too many people.
And Grahame, the message from the Liberal Party is just don't believe what you read and hear when it comes to this, trying to undermine the, I suppose, the validity of the document.
Well, look, we'll see. The whole point here is, can the Treasurer hit the surplus in May? That's what this is all about. And he must, politically, he must hit the surplus. But the frightening thing about all the documents today is that the rest of the world has said to us, look, here is half an hour of economic sunshine, and the government had the blinds down. You know, we're about to fall off the cliff in the sort of mining area and all of that. All of those things that we had pinned our hopes on, that instead of saying, go, 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 the government's been saying, no, 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 slow, 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 and all of a sudden we've missed it, and all of that revenue and all of that excitement and all of that growth that we were going to get out of the resources and coal and everything, it's slowing down, and the Treasurer's got himself into one hell of a pickle, to the point where today he had to whack families with health insurance, he had to whack mums, he had to whack universities, and he had to whack businesses. And you think, oh blimey, I'm not sure come May he's going to get there.
All right, that obviously remains their goal, and they'll be doing their best to do it, because of obviously how much political capital has been invested in it. Let's look at the polls, Bruce. A couple of mixed polls today. You've got the Nielsen poll, which shows, interestingly, Julia Gillard's approval rating up, Tony Abbott's approval rating down, as well as the coalition primary vote. And then there's this other poll in the Australian, leaked by a left-wing union, which shows in 3 key seats that if Kevin Rudd was back as leader, they'd win those seats. So this has been a bit of a boost for Julia Gillard, that the gender speech and the reaction to it, it seems.
It does seem that way. I think there have been other factors at play as well over a period of time. This has been a gradual and incremental improvement in the government stakes. However, we're still in a pretty low position as far as primaries are concerned. It's 34%, but in two-party preferred, much better. I think the real loser in the AC Nielsen poll, though, is Tony Abbott. You know, he's down as preferred Prime Minister yet again. There's a big gap between him and the Prime Minister now, 10%. And, of course, the government's popularity is rising as well. So I think if I were him, I'd be a bit concerned, because at a heartbeat, I think the Liberal Party would get rid of Tony Abbott if they thought that he was no longer driving down the government's vote.
Great. OK, well, let's get Graham's thoughts on that, because if Mr Abbott would be hoping this is not a trend that we're starting to see in terms of driving down the coalition vote from today's Nielsen poll.
Yeah, look, we're getting back to somewhere near normal, where we're sort of gradually getting closer together, and we all expected that. You know, those massive gaps just cannot be sustained. And particularly, I think, as most people are saying, once a bit of the heat went out of the carbon tax, then automatically that sort of anger and that hostility was going to calm down a bit. But conversely, strangely, I actually think the biggest loser out of today's poll is Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd's leadership ambitions are in tatters. Cactus gone, il est mort, dead, think of my word. He's just going to be sitting on the backbench now for however long Julia Gillard decides. You know, is that really what Kevin Rudd wants? I honestly think that door that nearly opened for Kevin is now closed, and the Liberal Party is very happy about that.
Do you think that the Liberal Party, you're saying the Liberal Party is pleased with that, but yeah, do you think that some Labor MPs, as it's been put to me, that now they're back within striking distance, that it actually is a good thing for Kevin Rudd that the primary vote's improved, and it means that MPs that consign themselves to a loss would now say, actually, we might be able to win. So they might go for him.
That sounds a rationalisation from somebody who was probably best man at Kevin Rudd's wedding. No, I don't think the caucus is thinking like that at all. They are saying, look, we don't need Kevin anymore because things are getting closer, and anyway, the instability of bringing back Kevin Rudd would be too great to contemplate.
Yeah, OK, Bruce, that's a valid point, I think, from Graham there. And if you look at these numbers, if Tony Abbott's approval rating remains low, and it does drag down the coalition vote, as you alluded to earlier, that does put Mr Rudd in a box there, doesn't it, in the back bench? So I can't see too many people risking a change.
Well, he's been in a box on the back bench since February of this year, and he's made it pretty clear that he's not going to challenge. I mean, the big challenge for the government, though, has been to try to build up their own primary vote, which still languishes, but in two-party preferred terms is much better than it was before. No, but I just get back to what I said before. Tony Abbott is the person who's got most to be worried about here, because if, as we suspect, much of the boost that's been received by the government in recent times has been about his personal attitudes on a whole raft of issues, you know, being very old-fashioned, a 1950s sort of a guy, and so therefore men and women are both starting to worry about him, then he is the person who is more likely than not to be deposed at some point, because it would overcome the problems for the Liberal Party in a second if he was removed and, say, replaced by a Julie Bishop or somebody like that, who obviously wouldn't have the same sort of problems with women as he does. So I think this has got a long way to go, this story about the leadership of the Liberal Party anyway, and I think we should see I think we may well see a few twists and turns along the path between now and the election. Certainly, you alluded to the Galaxy poll that was conducted today, which was released today. I mean, that just goes to show what everybody's always known, that Kevin Rudd is the most popular politician in the country. But it's not a question of how popular you are with the electorate, it seems. It's more a question of how popular you are with your caucus. And that's always been the test that the government's had to live by, and that's the test that he has to.
Well, it's interesting that Julie Bishop got a mention there by Bruce Hawker as well. I don't think she's been mentioned in dispatches when it comes to leadership before.
Yeah, in Julie's dreams. It's not going to happen. Look, I think one of the interesting in politics at the moment is, for the fifth election in a row, the Greens have gone backwards, and it does seem to me now that the Labor Party probably can never again in this country anywhere govern in its own right without the Green support. But that Green support really, really, really is dwindling, and we saw in the ACT election, although it's not, you know, a big election, but we saw it again at the weekend where the Greens halved their numbers, and the Labor Party again is going to have to rely on alliance with the Greens, and that is very, very uncomfortable for a lot of Australians and for a lot of Labor voters.
Bruce Hawker, we've got about a minute left. Your thoughts on the fallout of the ACT election?
Well, I presume Graham was talking about the ACT election there, where he talked about relying on the Greens. Certainly not at a federal level will that be the case, except in exceptional circumstances like we've seen in the last year or so. I think the ACT election showed that there is an increasing antipathy towards the Greens in the electorate, and I think it coincides with times which are a little less certain than they were before. I think they're an indulgence for the good times rather than a necessity for the tough times.
Bruce Hawker, Grahame Morris, great to chat today. Thanks. Always good to see you both. And that's all for PM Agenda today. The news is next.
Maintaining optimal health has never been so easy. From Nature's Own, Australia's #1 omega-3 brand, comes Omega Platinum. It cuts through the omega confusion with a powerful combination of fish and krill oils that make it the only capsule with a 1-a-day dose